Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dan Rootenberg.
Let's start this story April 26, 1991. I'm 18 years old. I was almost done with the process of pledging a fraternity and going through the final Hell Night with my fellow pledges as a freshman at Binghamton University. This was the final night of Hell Week, a week traditionally filled with sleep deprivation, physical challenges at all times of the day and night, and attempts to mentally rattle you. I was pretty tough in my mind and didn't rattle easily, but pledging and playing baseball in the same season was stretching oneself thin even for me. I was mentally and physically tired. I didn't know it yet, but I was soon about to face the biggest challenge of my life. I returned back to the dorm after Hell Night, crossing the chasm from pledge to brother. And my first act at 4 a.m. was hitting the play button on my answering machine. Yes, I know I'm showing my age. This was the time before cell phones. It was a message from my sister Sharon to call her right away. I did, and she said I needed to come home immediately on the next bus. I didn't have a car, but I protested, pushing the priorities of an 18-year-old. I have a formal tomorrow. Can't I come home the next day? You don't understand, Danny. Dad is in the hospital, and you have to get on the first bus home, Sharon told me, and I suddenly understood the urgency. 2 hours later, after being awake for 48 straight hours, I found myself on the 6 a.m. bus to Port Authority, and then on the D train to Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn. My uncle picked me up from the subway and told me that my father had a brain aneurysm last night, and it doesn't look good. It was hard to process what he was saying. I felt numb. I just remember looking at that passenger side mirror, reading, "Objects may be closer than they appear." At that moment, I felt further away from the life I had just left behind that morning. By the time I got to the hospital, it was too late. I never did get to say goodbye to my dad. When I finally got home, I just sat and looked at my mother's face. She looked lost. In some ways, I lost her that night as well, as she did her best to finish raising 3 kids on her own, but was never really the same again. I thought back to that mirror. She was close by, but seemed so much further away now. Obviously, that night was a much bigger leap than I had planned. Instead of going from pledge to brother, I went from child to adult overnight. Thankfully, in retrospect, I had my baseball dream and some important relationships that helped me stay true to myself and keep me on course to not get lost in the seismic change this created for me in my life, to keep me closer to the mirror, not further, even though it all felt a little out of place. I remember coming back to school after the funeral. Spring had sprung and everything felt a bit different, as if I was living the rest of that semester with a film over my eyes. Reality was somehow closer than it appeared. There, participating in college life fully for the rest of the semester, but not exactly fully there. I remember having a catch warming up before one of our home baseball games with my teammate Jay. After the catch, I asked him, "What is that black tape for under the bill of your cap?" He paused and said slightly awkwardly, "Well, actually, Root, that's for you. The whole team did that." I was touched. I mentioned baseball because that focus really did save me in so many ways. My love of the game, shared with my dad as a kid, even though he knew nothing about baseball, but learned it to bond with his son. And the dream of playing pro ball helped ground me through the darkness and kept me from drifting further away. I also learned a lot from being a student of the game that later helped me build a successful business, goal setting, the power of positive thinking, focus, mental toughness, resiliency, bouncing back from failure. Starting and growing a successful business is really hard to do, but actually fairly easy compared to making it to the major leagues. I graduated college a few years later in 1994, the year of the baseball strike. It was actually the worst year in the past century to try to sign a pro baseball contract. Despite being told I had a great tryout with the Phillies, free agent signings were frozen. I wanted to continue my dream and take the year to train and then try out again that spring. So I was actually relieved when I was waitlisted from every school I applied to, Columbia, NYU, and Touro's PT program. My mother, on the other hand, she was pushing me hard to get on with my life so she would have one less worry. One morning in late August, after graduation, the phone rang at 10 a.m. and woke me up out of a deep sleep. That phone call would change my life. It was someone from the admissions office of Touro College. One student didn't show up to anatomy class on the first day of school. Do I want to take the spot? I didn't respond right away, partly because I saw my baseball dream floating away in that passenger side mirror, and partly because I was still asleep. I quickly came to my senses and I said yes. And in that instant, I embarked on a new dream. So that was my start, getting accepted to the only school that took me off their wait list because someone else didn't show up. So yes, I was always a dreamer that knew he had no safety net, recognizing I would either fail or succeed, knowing nobody was really left to bail me out. That was my operating system. But why am I telling you this story now? This was how I got my start, when I had to dig down deep, keep my dreams big, and forge ahead. I have to say that PT school was a lot of fun. And a few years later, when I started Spear with Touro classmate and good friend David Endress in 1999, I had a vision, a dream, if you will, of combining the clinical excellence I learned while at HSS with a 5-star customer service experience by building an organization that focused on employees and their growth and development. The idea being that if you take care of your team members' needs, they will take care of your patients. I knew absolutely nothing about starting or growing a business, only the belief that if others can do it, why can't I? I was a psychology major in college, which you may not think is all that relevant to business. But success in business and in life is all about understanding people. So that field of study gave me tools I could use to propel forward to be standing here today. When I think back to the ingredients of growth over 25 years into one of the most successful PT-owned practices in the country, 2-time National Practice of the Year winner, 2-time Columbia University Award winner for leadership in clinical education, a few important concepts stick out. 1, the law of attraction. Starting in my senior year of college, I wrote down goals that I wanted to accomplish, and I've done it every year since. I still remember the first one. Hit 400, earn all conference, run a 6.960. Check, check, check. Maybe if one of those goals was academic, I wouldn't have been on the wait list. This practice that I have kept up was actually my introduction to the law of attraction. When you let the universe know your intentions, it has a way of manifesting them. It's a magical concept, and I urge you to make it your habit. Some years it was writing my goals on an index card, some years a typed sheet of paper. One year it was written on the back of a receipt, sitting at a bar with my wife, Shelby. My hit rate is around 80% on accomplishing my goals, and I do make them challenging, and so should you. 2, the power of positive thinking. I think being obsessed with a sport from a young age, where failing 7 out of 10 times made you an all-star, prepared me for understanding the value of positive thinking. It's often said that whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Given that paradigm, I've always sought to bring an expectation of success, bring a positive attitude, and extend the benefit of positive intent to your teammates. You'll be rewarded for this in life. In PT school, we were given a book about how to train a chicken. I asked Bob Troiano, Professor Troiano, if it's still in the curriculum, and he acted like he had no idea what I was talking about. But the point was, the only way to train a chicken is through positive reinforcement. Punishing a chicken doesn't work and only creates a stressed out bird. It was a concept similar to what we use at Spear in the form of handing out a certain type of feedback we call TSP, truthful, specific, positive feedback, and it has to be all those things. And it's the foundational element to building great teams. 3, trust your intuition. Judgment is harder to measure and is not something that is spoken about often. However, one's judgment and ability to make tough decisions are vital to success. Being able to see the clear conflict and connecting the dots for a pathway out, which is not always the easy way. It's more than negotiation skills. It's the skill set of an FBI negotiator and your favorite coach rolled into one. We must be willing to stand by our decisions with limited information, all the while normalizing the discomfort of leaning into those difficult conversations. It's knowing how to trust your gut. Everyone here is intuitive, but how do you hone that skill and connect with your gut at the right time and the right sequence? When done incorrectly, over-indexing on your gut can lead to a prejudicial outcome. However, when sequenced correctly, by using your intuition a bit later in the process, it creates elegant and creative solutions that can lead to opportunities and connections that you didn't see before. 4, the compounding interest of consistent effort. Success takes effort. Let's face the fact that it's really hard, because it takes constant gentle pressure, to borrow a phrase from restaurateur Danny Meyer. Basically, for 25 years, just giving a bit more than I was comfortable giving every single day. The compounding of effort is powerful, whether it's trust and verify instead of assuming something, or having that important conversation even though you'd rather avoid it. Sending out that extra email or text, picking up that phone, not putting off for tomorrow what can be done today. It's basically taking that extra step and executing on the fundamentals. Whether you're a therapist, a pro athlete, a Navy SEAL, the successful ones simply execute better on the fundamentals. Applying this discipline of execution and bias towards action to what matters in your own everyday life has an absolutely astounding compounding rate of return. Similar to the concept of dollar-cost average investing in the stock market, where you invest a little bit each week. Putting in that little extra effort every day to execute is the difference between being average versus becoming the best version of yourself and having outsized results. As Nike says, just do it, execute. Perfect is the enemy of good. I know the concept of work-life balance is in vogue, especially post-pandemic. Marcus Buckingham, best-selling author and high-performance researcher, likes to say, if you actually hit balance in life, your reaction would be like, okay, nobody move. Balance is stasis, and everything healthy in nature is actually constantly moving through its environment and getting the nourishment that it needs to keep moving. Motion is lotion, as we like to say in the PT biz. It's not a static balancing act. Potential. You are sitting here, and the world is in front of you. There is so much potential each of you holds in your head, your heart, and your hands. Thousands of people will benefit from the skills that you have. When you get your first job, remember to connect with the person in front of you before going to work on a diagnosis. That connection you create is just as important to healing as the most skillful technique that you can offer. Dream big. You literally can accomplish anything you put your mind to and are willing to sacrifice for. Enjoy the journey. Have fun. It's the journey in the end that matters, not the destination. And don't forget to take risks in life. Enter the arena. Strive greatly. Fall. Get back up. Great things will happen. Why not to you? It's also important to put personal energy towards healthcare equity, advocating for our patients and our profession on Capitol Hill and at the grassroots level. We all have an obligation to give back, which is why I spend considerable time and energy lobbying Congress and why it's so personally meaningful that we give back. This year we made a $360,000 scholarship pledge to the next generation of PTs. I chose to give it to this institution that took a chance on me when I had no safety net. When I had no safety net. So yes, I'm proud that we've offered 14 scholarships to Touro University students, a quarter of which come from underrepresented backgrounds in our profession. When thinking about what we've accomplished as a team, there are many people to thank. I want to thank my Touro professors. My Spear team, my wife Shelby for being by my side through all the highs and the lows. And my kids, Jack, Evan, and Abby, for all their love and support. It's so important to send appreciation to your teammates, your family, and those that helped you get here. I wish I could thank my parents at a time like this of reflection. My mom passed away a year ago. Since I can't thank her today, I'm going to encourage each of you to take a moment to do something important. When you get your diplomas today, I will hand you a graduation gift in the form of gratitude that you will spread. It will enable you to write a quick note of appreciation so that you can thank someone, a family member, a spouse, a friend, a teacher, anyone that helped get you here before you can't. My ask is that you think of the name of who you will thank now, and write a quick thank you that you'll either put in the mailbox today or hand personally before the day is over. Just execute. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Don't take relationships for granted, since there will be a last time that you can say thank you, and you never know when that is. With that, I thank each and every one of you here, including Jill Verbakowitz, Bob Troiano, Laura Hagan, and Dean Lorenzette for inviting me here today, and everybody else on this stage. And all of our graduates, I wish you all tremendous success and a rewarding career. And I especially want to thank that one student who didn't show up to anatomy class those 30 years ago. Thank you.